This is K, and yeah, I like this. This is looking good. It's a really nice drawing. I think that there's still the issue of filling in the background, but maybe if we sort of kind of push the camera a little bit more and kind of focus more on just this structure, then we'll just have to do just little bits of background around it. Yeah, and it's a bit different from the drawing, so I might try to build a little closer to the drawing, but you're really not even required to do any modeling yet, so this is sort of jumping ahead anyway. And yeah, the character drawings are great. I think they're just right for this assignment. Um, and you've done a really good job of matching the proportions and the different views. Um, so I think this is going to work well. Normally, I'd either have the arms straight out to the side or at a 45-degree angle, but not here at the sides. So you might want to just adjust that so you have them either at a 45-degree angle or in what they call the T pose with the arms out to the side. But yeah, this is good. You might want to get some reference for the hands, like a hand view from above would be from the top would be helpful. But besides this is really good. This is Julia, and yeah, I think this has improved a lot. Um, there's a lot more shape to the character, and I think that's going to really help. Um, there's some things where I feel like he's got this very square looking jaw here, but a very kind of pointy looking jaw here, and I might just sort of try to get those more consistent with each other. Um, and then much like the last one, you might want to do a top view of the hand or find some photo reference of a hand to help you with that. But yeah, this is just right for this class. This is just the right kind of idea. And yeah, again, right idea for this set. This should work very well. Yeah, that's really perfect. I think that you could populate it with some additional props. For example, one of those, the rolls of packing tape with the handles on them or something, or um, maybe some open boxes or a stack of books or other things that tend to be lying around when you're moving. But just to flesh it out a little bit more. But yeah, this is looks really good. And always at the notebook that the character is looking at. I mean, pretty simple and straightforward, but yeah, that looks good. This is Jesse, and I actually think it's a pretty good idea to draw this on graph paper. Can help with making sure proportions are correct. And yeah, that's some good clean work there. I still think you would benefit from having a neck on the character. I know that maybe departs from the design a little bit. Even a small neck would be good, and I guess you can figure out that when you actually get into modeling it. But yeah, this is good. This should work well. I think that the fingers are looking a little short and stubby, and therefore might be difficult to use. So I understand these cartoony looking, but you might want to find some compromise in the shape of the fingers that's a little bit closer to the normal proportions of a human hand, just so they have, I could see these fingers sort of kind of starting from down here more, for example, rather than being just little things at the end there, something like that. So, or this is Natalie, and yeah, this is definitely improved. You can start to see a little bit more of the three-dimensional shapes. I think you could go even further on that, giving more of a sense of a knee, calf, and the shin bone, and those kinds of things. I like that there's some visible ribs and clavicles here. And then you've got a little nose shape that's better. I would tend to give your character a mouth, even if it's just a simple kind of opening slit. Yeah, and that's looking better. You might go give a little bit more mass to the feet. I understand it's supposed to be kind of frog-like feet, but if it's an upright character like this, it's a little bit hard to believe those very skinny feet would support him well. And maybe just a touch more mass to the legs as well, but keeping it pretty skinny. And this is good. I'll have to think about how to do the web to fingers thing, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Yeah, those look good. And did we not get any kind of environment? So the other thing to do was to get a environment update, so make sure you get that in. Next up is Nathan, and I think as I mentioned last time, it's a good reference, but because none of it's original work, I can't give you as much credit as people who put the time in to do their own designs. It will work well. I think that you might consider reducing some of the accessories on the character, or painting them on versus modeling them. It's all possible, but it's going to be a bit, these things are always difficult, and these extra straps I can see causing you issues in the rig. Again, it's all possible, it's just more challenging. So yeah, again, the option is model as is, or reduce the amount of geometry, like the amount of armor, etc., that the character has on, or texture some of it on. So all things to consider, or kind of any combination of those things. But what you'll probably do, for example, on these pants, is model the pants first, and then build the accessories on top of them. Same with the breastplate and the shoulder pads here. I would model the shirt and then model those over it if you're going to do that. Next up is Candace, and yeah, this looks good. I like that you've done this whole thoughtful layout thing here. And I think this should work well as an environment. I think that maybe just a little bit more, just objects to kind of flesh out the room, thinking about what someone might have in there, what kind of character it is and what they might have in there that defines that. But yeah, it's definitely the right kind of environment for this assignment, so that's good. And yeah, it's interesting. You've got it on graph paper, but the bottom of the feet aren't quite lining up. So I might fix that. And it would be good to do a little bit more, some detailed version on the face, because I feel like this is pretty simple in 2D, and it may not give you the information you need to build that in 3D, at the level of detail you'd want to kind of imagine how that looks in 3 dimensions. Also, you might want to give yourself, I guess you got a little shoulder there, you could go a little bit further with the shoulder, just because when your arms are up at the side there's a bit more shoulder going on, but it's not too bad. Yeah, overall I think this is a good design and should work well. This overlapping sort of skirt thing will pose some challenges, especially that piece in the middle, but let's go with it. And it'll move okay with the legs. It'll be a little tricky because we're not doing any kind of cloth simulation, and so it'll kind of, half of this will move with one leg and half will move with the other, and it kind of might stretch a little weird in the middle. You might consider, I don't know if that would help, I was just imagining something that kind of like swept over to one side more, like one bigger piece. It's still going to kind of stretch a little weird in the middle, pretty much no matter what you do with the skirt, unless you do a cloth simulation, which we're not going to do in this class. So, but it's okay. The fact that it's short, kind of limits the amount of trouble in that regard. So, yeah, I think it looks good. You just might want to do some more studies on the face, I think. Next up is Shelly, and Shelly, it's not a big deal, but you'll notice that the submission directions ask for JPEG, so it's best just to follow those, and because now I have to, download them and open up in here, and it's not, like I said, it's not that big of a deal, but it'd be better to do, just follow the required format. And I think it would be good to make sure these are upright too. Yeah, I don't think this is really improved that much from the last version. I think it's improved a little bit, but when I look, for example, at the legs, it's just this, it looks like this kind of done very quickly. The feet don't really look like anything from the front. And again, the hands are sort of little scribbles. So I think you need more attention to anatomy, more attention to proportions. Have the legs be more parallel. Really think about the feet here. Again, and the feet are just as big as the pant leg, which looks too small. You've got some shape to the body at the side. And let's see. Yeah, some improvement to this. It's good that you've got some foreground shape here like this curtain, so that's a good idea, and a couple candelabras, so this is definitely improved. I think you could probably populate the walls with a little bit more detail, maybe a rug on the floor or something like that. So I think the environment is starting to work a little bit now, but I think at this point I think the character just kind of lacks the detail and form and shape of something that's going to result in a good model. So either put more time into that, or find a character design you like and do that, or use the character that will be provided with the class. But I don't think the one that you currently have is going to result in a really good 3D model based on this design. So but, there is some improvement, but it still doesn't really, I think, come together that well. So I would keep working on this, and or find a reference that you like, or use the one that comes with the class. Next up is Lupe, and yeah, it's good that you've got a sketch here. As I mentioned last time, I'm a bit concerned with the scale of the environment, just because it's a large area, which makes it more to build, and I don't think it's good that it's a little bit bounded in the back by these hills. The other thing is I really would recommend steering clear of water. To make water look real, you have to do a whole sort of dynamic simulation of water moving, and that's beyond the scope of this class. So I would tend to say maybe a shot that does not include water would be a good idea. An area with some trees, in a way it's like if you kind of like zoomed into this area like here or something like that, that could be a pretty usable environment. But both the kind of vast size of this environment and the inclusion of water, and the fact that it's sort of not clearly bounded on this side, maybe you just cut it off here, but make it not a great fit for the environment that we'd want to build in this class. So, think a little smaller scale. Yeah. And so, yeah, try to come up with something that's a little simpler. And while this has improved, I think it's not yet at the level where it would make for a good model. It kind of lacks a lot of shape and detail. Um, so I would keep kind of working on the forms and the shape. It's definitely an improvement over what you had last time. The legs look a little bit sort of strangely baggy in this direction compared to the front view, and there's not really a sense of where the knee ends and where the ankle is and those kinds of things. There's not really a butt there. So and the proportions of the head are a little odd, with the eyes so high on the forehead. So I would sort of either keep working on this or consider finding a image online that you would like to model, or consider using the character design that's provided with the class. Next up is Yijin, and this is truly excellent artwork. Um, just really impressive. I'm a bit concerned it's a lot to finish for the class, in the time that you have. If certainly possible, but I think very challenging. So it may be that you decide to do something more like um, I don't know, like just like that area only, perhaps. Um, that would seems more doable to me than trying to do this entire environment. So think about that, and then that way you can always continue on from there as part of your thesis project. Um, and yeah, I mean, really, just beautiful artwork, ridiculously good. Um, but again, more than you'll be able to finish in this course, so try to narrow it down. Yeah, really great looking prop design. And on this character, while it's a very nice looking design, it's kind of exactly a lot of the things that we don't want to do in this class, um, which is long, flowy kind of robes and sort of stuff. I mean, the only way that that's going to work well is if you do like a class simulation, and like I said, that's out of the scope of this class. So I would, and also the skeleton head is challenging its own way, and the skeleton body, with the separate bones. I mean, it's all doable, but it's excellent artwork. It's just not, I think, uh, the right character for this class, um, because we're not going to be kind of doing all the sort of class simulations that would make the movement good, and really, and the rig is sort of based on a bipedal character, meaning 2 legs and 2 feet. This character doesn't seem to have feet. So while it's beautiful artwork, I would consider doing a simpler character for this class, or maybe you want to do like a biped version of this character, but again, without the big flowing robes, without the long hair and the big hood and the giant shoulder things and all that, and the dangling stuff, like all of those things, they're just not going to work well for this class, unfortunately. That's a whole other set of things to learn and do, and there's no way we have time for that. So yeah, think about a simpler biped character. Next up is Warren, and yeah, really excellent artwork, and a pretty good choice for this. What I would consider doing is focusing your effort on just this area that we're going to see in the camera view, and you could always flesh the rest of it out at another time, but then you can kind of put all your effort into all the detail for this area. um, I would also consider including evidence of sort of damage, bullet holes, burn marks, broken pieces, those kinds of things to show that a little bit more age and action has seen these trenches. But yeah, really good artwork there. And yeah, excellent character design, and I really like the facial studies. I think that's going to really help you out quite a lot. Um, that's all looking really good. And yeah, good reference for your prop. So yeah, good job all around. Next up is Anton, and yeah, this is looking good. It's definitely improved. Um, the proportions are a little unusual, but then again, it's a cartoony character, so it's sort of I think it could work. I think it works fine. I think that you've got this somewhat sort of V shape to the torso here, and I might try to get a little bit more of that going on here. I mean, you've kind of got it, but maybe a little bit more of that shape there. And then yeah, maybe go a little bit bigger on the shoulders here. It looks like a fairly muscular body, but this shoulder is kind of low here, so I might kind of build up the shoulder shape there a bit. Yeah, I mean, there's pretty clear definition of shoulder, elbow, wrist, and that's good. Maybe kind of tuck in these armpits a little bit. But yeah, I think it looks good. Probably these are going to be a little wider in the front view of these feet. That looks a little narrow. But yeah, I think that's good all around. And I think, yeah, this is the right idea. I'm not sure those lanterns, or I'm not sure what those are, but I think some of this could have used a little bit more sense of perspective just for a nice looking drawing. But as far as kind of laying out and figuring out what you want in there, I think that looks good. If this is the interior of a ship, you might think about what kind of things they would have here to keep things from falling down. Maybe at least a railing, if not more. You have this next concept art image you grabbed, which doesn't really have good examples of those things. But yeah, I mean, you can see how this is mounted on the wall, and I mean, I guess, yeah, I can see you've got that sketch, but yeah, it looks like this is a kind of a richer, better source for the design and the props and all those kinds of things. So that'll be a good reference to go from. And oh yeah, it's great to have a reference for shoes, so that's good. Yeah, overall I think this is all very workable and kind of the right scope for this class. Yeah, this is looking good. You sort of jumped ahead. Oh, I can see you've already done the beveling and stuff like that. So I think now the thing to do is to take this very kind of clean looking environment and think of adding some sort of variation, damage, wear and tear, those kinds of things to make it a little bit imperfect. But I think this kind of environment will work well for the class. The character could use a little bit more work. I think you should sort of define the shoes and the shape of the shoes. I think that there's no sense of kind of the waist versus the crotch versus there's sort of no butt on the character, and therefore there's not sort of a start and end to the thigh and the knee, and it's just these shapes aren't that useful. This feels a little bit more kind of rushed. So I think this needs some more work on it. You might want to use some anatomical reference to kind of just help you out. Um, and I think, the face has an okay cartoony look, and I can see that being translated into 3D. Although I kind of feel like, you kind of want to put some horizontal lines. So here it looks like he sort of has a chin, and here it looks like he doesn't have a chin. Um, and I think it's going to be challenging. And here, he's got this very big bridge of a nose with the eye set back, but here it looks like it's much smaller. So, and there's not much forehead. So I just think that this needs another good pass to really look at the body shapes. And I'm not saying it has to be anatomically correct and sort of based on actual human anatomy precisely, but it just seems to be kind of missing the fundamental shapes that you'd want in a character, cartoony or not. So, and some of the detail you'd want to really get a sense of how you're going to build it in 3D. So, I think this deserves another pass, or you could consider finding a reference that you want to use, or you could consider using the character design that comes with it. Next up is Shansu, and yeah, just really great drawing. Loads of character to it, really good shapes. Not really getting what's going on with the wrists and the hands. So I don't know. I really like the shape of the face and the body. I think that's all going to work well. I'm not sure how that all resolves. The wrists and the hands there. And yeah, environment looks really good. It's definitely the right idea, with a good amount of detail. So, and some kind of, it's got like a kind of cartoony shapes to it. So I think this is all really excellent artwork. I just don't really get what's going on here. Maybe another quick study of how that's going to look from another angle would be appropriate, or maybe go with a little bit more of a traditional kind of wrist and hand shape. But the face is so good, it's so expressive and interesting and got really good shapes to it, so it's really excellent artwork.